Hey guys, before we get rolling here, I just want to thank those of you who have left me a review on iTunes. This helps me keep the podcast free, so please keep them coming. Tell your friends. I also want to thank those guys that have been sending in the questions. This is what this podcast is about. It's about getting you the info that you need to help become a better hunter. Now you can actually go to my website, interviewswiththehuntingmasters.com, and click on the Ask the Pros section. And you can send me your questions there, and you can even suggest a guest. And lastly, before we jump into this episode, I want to shed a little light on one of my sponsors, Sneak Tech Sneak Boots. I've been wearing them now for several years, and they've really upped my stalking game. I'm not a very sneaky person, and I find that extra added stealthiness that they give me has really improved my stalk. I believe in them so much that I've decided to give away one pair each month to a lucky subscriber. So if you're a subscriber, once a month I'm going to be announcing a winner to win a pair of Sneak Tech boots. So go ahead and go check them out at sneaktech.com, and that's SNEEKTEC.com. Let's get to the next episode. Hi, welcome to the Interviews with the Hunting Masters, brought to you by the OutdoorInsiders.com and the Sneak Tech Sneak Boot. This week, we're talking to a buddy of mine, fellow podcaster, Zach Harold. And Zach runs Archery Maniacs podcast. We're just going to kind of shoot the shit here a little bit, talk a little bit about podcasting, talk a little bit about preparing for hunts, and whatever else comes up. What's going on, Zach?
Oh, man, I'm super excited to be on the show with you and just talk about hunting season and everything like that. Talk a little bit about our podcast and how they kind of evolved from something we were interested in doing and kind of did a little bit to something that we're now trying to actually pump into and make something out of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just appreciate you having me on the show. For everyone that's listening, I'm Zach Harold with Archery Maniacs.
Awesome, man. Thanks for being on. Yeah, we've talked about doing a little joint podcast for a long time.
Yeah.
I remember when you had me as a guest on the show, like I was like number 7 and you have like 100 and something episodes now?
Yeah, you were literally podcast 7, and I just uploaded podcast 155 today.
Dude, you're just cranking them out. What are you doing, like 3 a week?
I do 4 a week.
Really? You release 4 podcasts a week?
Yeah.
You're going to run out of people to talk to.
Yeah, I know. And I think people would get rather sick of hearing me talk to myself. So I don't know. I'm going to have to come up with something different.
Yeah. Nah, man. I think any more than 2 a week is just like, I'm only doing 1 a week. I was like, listen, I'm going to do this. I told my sponsors, I'm like, I'm doing 1 a week. Take it or leave it. I'll make 52 of them a year. I might throw a bonus episode here and there, but that's it.
Yeah.
Because honestly, you don't want to get to the point where you're talking about the same stuff just with different people. Because a lot of it, everybody does something a little bit different, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for those little nuances, especially if your podcast is, and I know a lot of it's like mine, where you're trying to do, educational type podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to learn tips and tactics, try to better the people who are listening, try to become better hunters and so on and so forth. If it was strictly entertainment and you're just doing, talking about stories, you could do millions of those.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually starting to kind of incorporate a little bit more of those in and not make it all 100% informational. I want to have some guys on talking stories, telling, or guys that I've already had on for information and bring them back and tell stories and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
that makes perfect sense to me. And actually, I kind of took a different approach. I have one podcast that is generally somebody that's never been on the show ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I use that whole entire podcast to get to know them, to get to know what things are working for them, the lifestyle they live, what they do, how they became who they became.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's on a Monday. And then on Tuesday, I have stories from the Red Zone. And that's just a ton of fun because it's just literally hunters, like you're sitting around the campfire BSing, telling hunting stories. And then I'm fortunate because I've been able to hunt a lot. So I'm able to ask specific questions to really break their story down,
Mm-hmm.
to figure out why something worked or what worked or why it didn't. That way people can laugh and have fun, but also learn from a story environment. And then Wednesday, I have tips and tactics, which is literally no introduction, nothing. We have a topic, nuts and bolts, we get to it. And then Thursdays is a gear review, so that's a simple one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the stories. I'll never run out of people that want to share a story, and probably never run out of gear that I can review.
Right.
I mean,
They're always coming up with some other gadget.
Exactly. It's amazing how much stuff they come up with.
Oh, cool, man. That's a neat approach. I don't think anybody else is doing that. That's a good deal.
So that's the plan anyways. And we're about to incorporate actually target archery into it as well. My wife is really big into target archery. So we're going to start a weekly podcast called Journey to the Podium. That way we can send one out just for target archers. Because for whatever reason, the archery community is divided. As badly as we don't want it to be, it still is divided. And so we're going to do something like that. But I'm going to put a few of them together, and we're going to work on doing once a week an actual true to the sense live episode as well. So we're in the works of changing some things up. We got a store that's launching. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. We just got a lot of stuff in the works. We just launched a team of, I think we're going to have roughly 100 new members on our Archery Maniacs team. It's just crazy. Just things are growing.
Nice, man. Congrats.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Appreciate it.
No, that's great, man.
So what about you? I mean, when I first had you on, honestly, I didn't know that you had a podcast when I first reached out to you, and then you started telling me a little bit about it. And since then, I've listened to some of your live stuff and then submitted questions and everything like that. So, how, because you started podcast when podcasting wasn't the thing, right? So how did your podcast come about, and what were your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, so it was about 10 years ago. There was a guy I used to listen to. He did Blogging the Outdoors, it was called. He had a little podcast, and that's kind of what sparked my interest in it. I used to listen to him. It wasn't all hunting, but it was mostly hunting and fishing. And I'm like, I should add this to the Hunting Channel Online, which is a website that I own. It's a subscription based. So, at the time I had like 10 or 15,000 subscribers to my website that used to come and watch videos, read articles, use the various functions of the website to plan hunts and whatnot. And then, so I added the interviews with the hunting masters, where I would once a month, I would get a hold of somebody in the industry, and we had to Ask the Pros section on the Hunting Channel for many, many years, and that take those questions from there, and I would ask them on a podcast to one guy. And so I only produced 12 a year, and I did that for about 6.5, almost 7 years, and then I quit doing them. And then about a year and a half ago, I had been getting emails from people like, "Oh, hey, we missed the interviews with the hunting masters on the Hunting Channel. Why don't you bring it back? Why don't you bring it back?" And finally, I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." And then a buddy of mine's like, "Why don't you just do a podcast and just put it out there for everybody?" I'm like, "All right, you got me." I'm like, so I didn't really, I wasn't going to keep the name Interviews with the Hunting Masters just because it sounds kind of, one, it's long. And it's real. I didn't need to market it before because it was just on the Hunting Channel. But putting it out there on the web now, it's something. It's hard to market. It's hard to shorten up and make. It's just a mouthful. There's number one. Number two, it sounds very pretentious. Like, oh, this guy thinks he's a hunting master. But when I did it, when I was doing it, I was truly, back in the day, 10 years ago, there wasn't all these Facebook professional hunters. Okay. So I like guys who wrote books, guys who were very well known, so I viewed them as masters, not myself as a master, but them. There was interviews with the hunting masters, and that's why how it came out. But everybody's, I'm like, let me roll this out. I'm going to throw out a few of my old episodes first just to see what happens. And that's why I ended up keeping the name. I was going to originally call it the same as my TV show, Days in the Wild podcast. It would have been easier marketing, smarter. But I did what I did, and now I rolled it out as interviews with the hunting master still, and here we are a year and a half later. And
you're doing one a week, right?
I do one a week, yes.
That's awesome, man. That's still a lot of work. I mean, people don't understand, trying to collaborate with somebody else, and then you get it all in, and then you do whatever edits you need to do. So that's still work, man. That's a lot of stuff you got going on there for sure.
Yeah, and I still have the TV show too, so that eats up a crap load of time. I mean, like crap time and money is like, it's ridiculous. I honestly wish I would have started doing the podcasting to the masses thing a lot earlier, because I've actually stepped back a little bit. I'm not going to be producing the TV show as a TV show anymore. I'm just going to put together, a few films a year, and that's it. I'm still going to try to film all my hunts and work for the best, but I'm not really doing a full-fledged, 12 episode seasons anymore. Just because it's just too much, man. And the way things are going, and social media, and the way the sponsorship money is, it's so difficult now. It's just ridiculous. I mean, I don't want to get into a whining campaign right now, but it's not what it used to be.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Like, that's definitely something that if you're not seeing the returns on the other end, then it's just simply not worth the hassle.
No, not at all. So, what hunts you got planned for this year?
My wife and I don't really know how, but we kind of drew everything that we applied for in Wyoming.
Nice.
So super excited. We drew an elk tag that is an archery only elk tag, type 9 in Wyoming.
What unit?
Unit 55. It's all the way up there. 55 or 53. I don't know. One of those two. They're both right next to each other, all the way up there next to the park border. So we get to go up there and battle the wolves and the grizzlies.
Nice.
And but super excited. I think my cousin's going to come in and bring horses and just go have a good time. So in Wyoming, we applied as a party. So my wife and I got that tag. It was actually our third choice. We drew buck antelope tags, additional doe fawn antelope tags, 2 each, a late season whitetail tag. Then we'll have a general deer tag. And then I will hunt Colorado elk, Idaho deer, Nebraska deer, and maybe Ohio deer, and Arizona deer as well, I think, in January.
I know you've been talking about coming down for a while.
Oh man, I've been really wanting to. It's so cold here in January.
Nah, get out of here.
Yeah,
Wyoming cold?
Yeah, -20. There was a few times at work that, no kidding, it got to like -50, and I was like, why are we out here?
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. My buddy Wade's always telling me stories, man, about how cold it gets, and he's like up by Buffalo.
Yep.
So it's.
What about yourself?
I drew a Wyoming bull tag as well.
Oh, sweet.
So I'll be hunting the bighorns.
Awesome.
It's a great hunt. And
what unit did you draw?
36 or 35, I can't remember, but yeah.
Sweet.
And I also pulled a Region Y deer tag as well, so I'll have both tags in the pocket at the same time, hunt them at the same time. My very next hunt, I just went blacktail hunting. I just got back like 4 or 5 days ago, and then in California, and that was a fun hunt. My next hunt is Utah. I have a bull elk hunt in Central Manti, which is it's a good unit. It's not the best unit, but it's a good unit. It's got a lot of good bulls in it, a lot of elk, period. And then let's see. I have I'll be going. I have like 3 whitetail hunts on the agenda this year too. I'll go to South Dakota, New York, and Missouri. So October, November for those. I plan on. I drew an awesome tag here in Arizona for rifle muley.
Oh,
Uh,
sweet.
yeah, a rut hunt. So, which I've never got a rut hunt muley tag. Actually, I've never put in for one either. So, I decided this because I always chase them with the bow. Honestly, I never really. I'm like, you know, I tried to put in for harder hunts, and I was like, like strip tags and stuff. And then I was like, yeah, you know what? Let me put in for this. This is a really good unit that I used to hunt archery all the time. They closed it for archery last year and this year. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put in there because I can't hunt it with the bow this year. Let me try to get it with the rifle. I'm like, I think they gave like 20 tags or something like that. I'm one of the few people that got it. So
Heck yeah.
yeah,
That's wicked cool. That'll be a lot of fun. I mean, I hunted deer in the rut last year or mule deer for the first time ever. I went with Brian Barney and we hunted Montana, and I just had the video camera.
nice.
And I've never got to do anything with mule deer in the rut, and that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, you guys don't really get to hunt them in the rut. Well, it's not
No,
true. That's not entirely true. If you get that, you can go in that tail end of the last few days of the rifle season.
yeah, there's a
You got rutting,
few
and then you have
units.
rutting whitetails too. You can hunt
Yep,
rutting
yep. We
whitetails.
can hunt whitetails all the way to the end of November. But as far as mule deer, I think in Wyoming, the latest season, unless it's a special draw, because I don't ever apply for mule deer special draws. I don't
Right.
find a point, But the latest, I think, somewhere around November 10th or something,
Yeah. Yep.
which, depending on the year, they could be kicked into the rut by then.
Yeah. I remember going there one time. I always go in the early season. I usually go in September and hunt them archery. But I went back for 3 days and shot one during the rifle season, and they were nosing around and acting a little ruddy. Nothing
Mm-hmm.
crazy, but so.
So, which hunt are you most looking forward to this year?
Jeez, man, I don't know. I mean, I got two premier elk tags. I'm excited about both of them. I'd like
Yeah.
to. I don't think I've ever killed 2 bull elk in 1 year. That'd be awesome if I can do that.
Yeah,
I've never
for
had
sure.
2
That's kind
eggs in 1 year either. So
yeah.
you know, I've never drew 2 bull elk tags. I shouldn't say I've had 2. I killed. Actually, I did kill 2 bull elk. Yeah, now that I think about it, I had one over the counter tag. Okay, yeah, back in like 7 years ago or something like that. But yeah, I just I've never drawn 2 premier tags in in the same year. So this should be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's kind of I'm really excited about my Colorado hunt. I don't know about more than other units, but last year was the first time I've ever hunted Colorado for elk. It's just
Uh-huh.
that over the counter tag, there. And so I'm super excited about hunting that simply because, as you know, anytime you can go to an area more than once, your
Hmm.
odds start to grow. So
Yeah,
I'm excited about that hunt for sure.
yeah. You start
But
figuring things out, and that's usually what happens to me. Like that's why I always end up killing like last day because by the time I'm figuring them out, it's like about the time I'm getting ready to leave. So yeah,
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
no,
absolutely.
that's cool, man.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
no, you go.
I was just going to say, what are a few of the things that you're really focusing on this year as far as preseason that you feel last year were kind of a weakness that you're really been focusing on this year to kind of fix?
Well, I didn't last year. I for sure did not get time uh, to practice shooting. I didn't shoot a lot last year, and I really saw it. I drew ibex again. That was my second time. So last year, and I really felt like had I practiced a little bit more with that bow, I actually missed 3 times. They were very steep shots. It was super windy, but all in all, I felt like had I practiced a little bit more, I may have made that shot. Like I just wasn't super comfortable with that bow yet, and that was partly Matthew's fault. I'm gonna blame it on them. They took their sweet time sending me the bow. So half my season I was hunting with my old bow, and then I kind of switched gears like a little late in the game.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
like
that's
we're
my scapegoat right there. That's my reason. Blame somebody else. Not my fault. That and really physical fitness, man. Because I've got a shit. 2015, man. When I went on that ibex hunt, I was in awesome shape. 16, not at all. I mean, I shouldn't say not at all, but not nearly where I was. And this year, I'm kind of feeling the same way. I'm like just way behind. I was kind of sucking wind bad in California, and I wasn't even at elevation. I bet you're hunting at 1,000 feet over there in Cali. It's like,
yeah.
but yeah. So my next hunt's at like 9,500 to like 11,000 feet or something like that, and I'm gonna be like, whoa.
Yeah, that's definitely a little bit of elevation change from California.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have like lead weights attached to my legs and feel like I'm sucking wind through a straw. And that's coming up quick, man. It's not like I got a bunch of time too. I got about 3.5 weeks to get ready for that. So
it's crazy. I can't believe that today's the last day of July. I'm not sure where it went. It's just nuts to me.
Yeah, I'm happy though. I can't stand the summertime. Freaking hate it. I hate it because, well, for one, my other business is a pool company. So like every time summertime rolls around, my life gets exponentially more busy. My stress level goes up. And I live in Arizona, so the heat sucks. You're going from air conditioning to air conditioning. It's not like you can do anything outside. And if you do, it's like, ugh. But yeah, I hate summertime. I really do.
I'm the same way. It's my least favorite time of year.
Yeah. Well, most hunters don't like summertime unless they're, you live in a place where it's fun to go scouting and, the weather's cool and whatnot. But yeah, here sucks. So.
Yeah. I with scouting, what's kind of what's your thoughts on elk scouting? Me personally, I think the elk are kind of where the elk are. And you could go and you could scout and you could see them there and you go back and they could be nowhere to be found.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm almost to the point where I'm just like, I think I'm going to save the time that I do have as far as scouting goes for, mule deer and whatever else. Because it's like, I have a few spots where I'm going to find elk and they're either going to be in this one spot and they're not. And if they're not, they're going to probably be in the next spot. And if they're not there, they're going to be in the third spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, this is my take on elk. It all depends. Obviously, it all depends on the time of year that you're hunting them. Mm-hmm. And if you're hunting them during the rut, I focus on where all the cow groups are. Look for all the cow groups. Look for those areas that have a good feed and good water. Because, elk are big animals, so they need a lot of water. They need a lot of feed. My stupid dogs, I don't know if you can hear them in the background. I'm shut up for the last 5 minutes. Apologize. I never do podcasts at home when my family's here because they're like maniacs. My kids are always yelling at each other. My dogs never shut up. So I apologize for everybody out in the podcast world if you hear my maniacs in the back. And they're not archery maniacs.
Dang it.
So elk.
I can send them a shirt.
Yeah, there you go. So elk, I really, if I'm gonna hunt the rut, I focus on cows. I don't even look for bulls. They're not gonna help me. Some of the things I do look for though is I look for like old rubs.
Okay, makes sense.
Because if there's rubs in there, that means that's where they were last year during the rut. 9 times out of 10, they're going to be back in that same area. And on the late season hunts, I'm just looking for the stuff that they need for that time of year.
Yeah.
It's always trying to match the needs of the animal, to the time of year. It's not rocket science, but it's more or less up to your observation skills and your attention to detail, really. But the actual science behind it's not very difficult. elk need this, that this time of year. During the rut, they need to get some punana. So that's what they're interested in. But
that
the
is
cows,
so true.
But the cows have calves with them usually, and they need food and they need water. So you look for those areas that hold cows, and the bulls will show up eventually.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
same thing with deer. Hunting deer in the
Yeah.
rut, I do the same thing. Like mule deer. Like if I go out scouting right now in the spots that I hunt mule deer during the rut, I will not see a single buck out there. Once in a while you'll catch one coming to a water hole on a kit trail camera or something, but I won't see him the way I see him. He's come rut time, they're popping up all over the place where all these does that I've seen through the year are at. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. What about you? What are some of the things that you're doing to prepare?
Shooting definitely. Last year I missed not the biggest bull I've ever shot at, but one of the biggest. And I got it all on film.
Awesome. That's always a great reminder.
Right. And I hit full draw, and I watched my pin. He was like 35 yards. I watched my pin float over him, and when it hit there, I flinched. And when I flinched, I started to cam over, and I caught it about right here.
Uh-huh.
I started drawing back again, and I got to about here, and I hit the trigger. So I wasn't anchored or nothing. I just
Right.
Just all me. Definitely nothing I can blame it on. It's all me. But I'm shooting a different release this year, and I just started shooting it like a week and a half ago. So I'm really trying I'm really trying to get.
Don't change that close to season, bro.
Right.
You're shooting just by your action. You're shooting a thumb.
This new one's a thumb release. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I just was getting where I was punching the trigger really, really bad with my index style.
Yeah.
And I feel really comfortable with this thumb release. And I'm not going to say that I'm shooting better, but my groups are just as tight already. Mm-hmm. So I think, getting more relaxed with it and everything like that. Absolutely. And then obviously fitness. I've really been trying to dial in nutrition too. I'm on an all keto diet. I actually literally right before this podcast, I had Zach Griffith on my podcast, and he and I were talking about the keto diet and the importance, not really the importance, but I guess the power of switching your body from carb fuel to fat fuel.
Right.
And so I went through, and my wife's on it as well. So we've been doing a lot of research and making our own meals that are zero carbs, but really, really high in fat content, so that that's what we can take to the woods and to the backcountry instead, which I'm really looking forward to. It's just been helping me a bunch. I just feel better on it. So I'm excited about that. So making all those meals, I've been doing that as well. And then just dialing everything else in, I got a new sleeping pad because my other one just sucked and I wasn't getting sleep like I needed. Mm-hmm. I got a new stove. I went from a jet boil to a BRS, and my BRS stove is 0.9 ounces. It's literally this big.
Nice.
And so just been switching stuff. I got a Steri pin this year too, which I'm excited about using. Mm-hmm. So just did more research this year and switching some things up and got things lighter than because before I'd kind of I don't really care if it's heavier. Right. You know what I mean? Like my pack, I don't really care if my pack weighs 11 pounds as opposed to 6 pounds dry pack. But this year I was like, that's kind of a lot for a pack.
Yeah, it is.
And I started taking stuff off and doing this, that, and whatever. And now my pack's like 5.5 pounds. So right there, I just saved myself like 5-ish pounds, and I'm just like that, and trying out different style of boots and everything like that. And just all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Success is in the details, man.
Oh yeah. And boots are just something they're so important. But it's so hard to be able to, call up you and say, hey, John, what boot do you use?
It's all feel, man.
Oh, yeah. And people's foot structures is so different. Some people, like Brian Barney's a great example. That guy, hunts and carries out all kinds of weight. He hunts sometimes 15, 20 miles in, and he's doing it all in like running shoes.
Yeah, I got a couple friends here that hunt in running shoes. I'm like,
yeah,
freaking nuts.
Yeah, and it's just
Nike
so
Freeze.
different. It's so different because I'm just like, man, when you have 100+ pounds in your pack, running shoes aren't supposed to work. But I mean, it's working for them, and their feet don't hurt, their ankles don't hurt.
My feet hurt just right now listening to you. Serious. I got the worst freaking feet ever. I got like bad plantar fasciitis. I've had surgeries. I've had all kinds of crazy shit with my feet. But yeah, so I have to wear super rigid boot with which is weird because the bottom has to be super rigid, but because I have such a high instep, the top has to be nice and supple so it moves, and I can't use anything that's over 3/4. I can't go like a shin height boot or something like that, or snake boot. Forget about it. I could never wear that.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, for me, I've been wearing the Mammoth GTX. Matter of fact, I got my girls yesterday to wax them up for me. Put them to work. Those are the ones I use right there.
Yeah.
So the shank's real tough, and they got good heel breaks, and and the top is supple and it's nice. So it's it meets my needs. And it's not super expensive either. I think they're like $230 boots, $140 boots.
Yeah.
So I've tried like really expensive boots. I've had Kenetreks. I've had Scarpa and Zamberlan, and I go with these because they work for me, man.
Yeah, and that's how
affordable
boots are. You got to find a pair that works for you. You can talk to everyone out there, but unless you're doing something like what's that company, Lathrop and Sons, where they custom make you shoe, like that's a little different because those guys know what they're doing. They map your feet. You know what I mean? But if I call you up and you're like, yeah, I use this boot, this is why, that boot might not fit my foot whatsoever, and it's just crazy. Yeah. Another thing that I have struggled with boots is getting them to hold up.
Yeah.
I've had that issue. And then one thing that I was listening to another podcast on Hunt the Backcountry, and Brian was on there with those guys talking about boot weight.
Mm-hmm.
I never really thought about it, but they're like, if you have a heavier boot and you take 20,000 steps that day, you just literally did 4 pounds times 20,000, 20,000 times. Like, holy crap, I never thought of it that way until they brought it up.
Yeah. People think about that stuff for sure. I prefer something that's not terribly heavy also,
Yeah.
There's companies out there that are using, carbon fibers and stuff like that in their shank instead of, heavier plastics or heavier or metal. Some of those metal shank boots are freaking lead weights, man. You might as well tie some anchors. But I agree with that. That's something. It's hard because you want to find comfort's the biggest thing. If you got to find something that's comfortable for you and that doesn't hurt your feet, but if you can find something that's comfortable and doesn't hurt your feet and is lighter weight, then
and it'll hold up.
Yeah. The hold up thing is, hey, if they last me a season, great. Unless I'm paying thousands of dollars for them, but if, I'm not saying that money's no option for me, but if I had to spend $250 every season to get myself into a pair of boots, $300 max, I would do it. But I wouldn't be buying myself a pair of $1,000 boots every season if they were going. I don't care. I don't care how freaking light and comfy they were. So.
No,
these have been good to me. These have been good to me.
That's awesome.
I usually get about, I don't know. I figured it out in miles last year. I think I put about like 200 plus miles on that set of boots. And
heck yeah,
they're ready to go this season. I think they're good. The tread held up real good. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But other than that, man, I just want to get my fitness up. I can't get my diet straight. I eat a lot of everything, good, bad, ugly. I just I'm a foodie, man. So it's like, I mean, the other night, what was it? Last night? No, it was the night before. I took my son out and met with my parents, and I must have ate like 6 slices of pizza. We went to Grimaldi's, and I was like, yeah, I'll have a slice of pizza and some salad. Yeah, I had salad and five or 6 slices of pizza. Like, that's just me, man. I got no shut off switch when it comes to food that I like.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because like I told you, I've been doing this keto diet, and then I was like, oh, pizza sounds really good. And I ate so much pizza, I likely to throw up.
Yeah.
Because your body's not used to burning carbs anymore, so it doesn't really know what to do with them. And I ate like 3/4 of a large pizza, and before I knew it, I was like, I don't know, something good might not come out of this.
Right? Did you get dizzy and stuff? Because I've heard.
Oh yeah, it just was like I felt just giant.
Yeah. Well, you gotta be careful on the keto diet too. So not a lot of people know this, but my first degree in college was exercise physiology. And keto diets, that's nothing new. It's been around forever. That style of diet. You just got to watch out because keto diet means ketoacidosis. You don't want to put your kidneys in trouble there, and kidneys in your liver. So you just got to be careful on those things. Just don't go too crazy, and kind of have a little balance and make sure you're getting enough veggies here and there to kind of. I mean, optimal performance wise, you go balls to the wall like Zach does, and you're going to trim up. You're going to look great. You're going to feel great. But long term, got to be careful with that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
for
cautionary
sure.
tale. I had a friend who, I mean, they can't say 100%, but I think that's why he passed away. So, just got to kind of watch out for that.
Yeah.
Well, what else is new in the Archery Maniacs world?
We are, like I told you, the team is pretty new.
So when you say team, you got what? Is it by basically pro staffers underneath working?
Yeah, pretty much. So we have a field team, a pro team, and an elite team, and we are receiving all the signed contracts back at this moment, and it's an interesting endeavor.
Yeah.
But I think all in all, it's going to be good, because now as opposed to myself, obviously I'm helping these people out and doing what I can for them and giving discounts and that kind of stuff for all kinds of companies. But, the nice thing is now it's no longer just myself spreading the word on the podcast. It's 100 other people. And
that's huge.
And that's a huge plus. I mean, and we're growing. I mean, we're like, I don't know, 12,000 downloads a month or more.
That's awesome, man.
We're getting there, but August 1st, I believe, is or 4th, August 4th, one of those two dates is my 1 year anniversary of the podcast. So
yeah, that's huge, man.
It's been interesting.
Yeah.
But we're getting somewhere, and I would like to turn this into an actual career. So right. that's why I'm people are like, man, you're nuts, you're putting in way too much time. I'm like, well, you don't understand what my end goal is here.
Yeah.
I don't like the job that I currently do, so definitely don't want to do that forever. This is what I would like to do, something more along these lines. So that's why I'm willing to get up at 4 a.m. and do podcasts until I go to work, and then get off work and do more podcasts until 10 or 11 and then go to bed and start all over.
Yep. Crazy, man. Yeah. No, that's good. I applaud your ambition for sure. And the fact that you're at 12,000, that's huge, being as, fledgling of a podcast as you are. And don't hope this doesn't sound like a backhanded compliment, but I do really think that you not already having a name for yourself beforehand, that's even more impressive that you've gotten to that level. Because I mean, you came out of nowhere. For me, it was a little bit easier. At least I had something I had something behind me already. So yeah.
Well, that means a lot. It really does. And that's kind of what it's been. People are like, I'll have them on the podcast, and one of the first things they tell me is, "Hey, man, I'm a nobody. I'm not sure why you want me on the podcast." And it's like, "Have you ever heard of me?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "No." And I was like, "Well, there we have it. We're gonna have a good podcast."
Nice. Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know. You know what? That's great because it's it can't be too elitist because then people can't relate.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like I try. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love to have some really, really big name guys on the podcast too. Like I've been trying like hell to have freaking Cam Hanes come on, but keeps dodging my bullets, I guess. But and the reason why is because my fans keep asking for him. So I'm like, let me try to get him on. I talked to them a couple times about it, and they say yes, and then they don't show. They don't come through. I had a couple other guys too that I'm not gonna name out that did the same thing, and I'm like, okay, man. I mean, it's your fans that are asking for you. I'm just trying to facilitate it. But if you don't want to be on it, you don't want to be on. I'm not gonna force you. But at the same time, I'd much rather have I don't want to use the word average Joe, but I'd rather have the guy that people can relate to, that they can see themselves becoming very easily or already at that level and, of hunter, and just like to see what the other guy does,
Yep.
So it can't all be Jim Shockeys and,
right. And actually, it's funny that you bring that up because I put out a podcast questionnaire and I was doing a giveaway for people to answer it.
Right.
And that's some of the things that the people said. They're like, "We love that you don't have big names on your podcast because I can relate to those people." And I was like, that's why I do it.
Right.
I have some of my buddies that, like my one buddy Flint, that dude is just a natural born killer. I mean, he kills 340 in the last 6 years. He's killed a bull elk 5 out of the 6 years. And I mean, he shoots whitetail every year, mule deer every year. And I mean, the dude is just a natural born killer. And he doesn't even have an Instagram, just barely got Facebook. Nobody knows him because he hunts because he loves it. Right. And I love having people like that on the show because, especially when they know, like, and trust you, they're willing to share and help and do anything with everyone, but they just don't have all that other crap and aren't well known because that's not why they do it.
Right. No, yeah, I get it.
But yeah,
I get the flip side too. Like I had a guy on, a friend of mine, and I got some like negative feedback. They're like, "Oh, why would you have a guy like that on?" And I'm like, he's just a kid, da 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 da, blah blah blah. And they're like, well, because I think he had something to offer, and I think he brings something to the table, and I think people can relate to him. So you're not gonna please everybody, but just do what you do, man. You're obviously doing the right thing. You got 12,000 downloads a month. That's a lot more than some of these guys have been doing for a couple of years now. I just reached 30 something just recently. And like I said, I had a lot bigger boost to start off with. I already had a large following that I just, regurgitated my new stuff onto. So, but no, that's awesome.
One thing that would probably be pretty cool to cover is kind of what the logistics of you planning your season looks like, because I think it's almost like a mental block that people are like, I really want to hunt multiple states, but what if I draw all the tags at once? Or which area do I really need to apply for? Or gosh, there's just so much work in this, that, and whatever to do. And I'm under the belief that if you step over that whatever threshold or whatever you got going on and you hunt one state out of state, it can even be over the counter. It doesn't matter. You do the research for that unit, you go, you hunt. I think it just like makes you all of a sudden, wow, this isn't as hard as I thought it was. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Well, I start off every year. I have like an Excel spreadsheet. And so let's put it this way. When I was doing the show, I knew I had to do, just based on my personal success rate. I knew I have an 80 to 85% success rate on my hunts for the last 10 years. So I knew that I had a plan about 14 hunts a year to make 12 shows. Okay. So, and I always look at it like this. I look at the months, look at the start of the season, the end of the season. And if we're just talking about fall and winter, which is what most guys do, and we're not talking about spring hunts, because I never did spring hunts for my show. Well, I shouldn't say never, but I rarely did spring hunts. So for instance, July, there's nothing going on. I knew I could go to California, So that's not a draw hunt. It's a first come, first serve tag, meaning they have X amount of tags in a unit or in the region, or they call them zones there. And once they sell out of them, which they never do, there's no more tags. So it's basically a guaranteed over the counter tag.
Gotcha.
So I just go through and I put in for all my tags, and the ones that I have a real likelihood, I start, plugging those in, saying, oh, I should draw this, I should draw this, I should draw this. But if I don't, so for me, I basically let me back up here. I try to schedule no more than 2 hunts in a month.
Okay.
I do that for my wife's sanity. I do that for my business. And if I am doing 2 in a month, I try to keep those hunts 6 days or less. I actually very rarely go more than 7 days on a hunt anyway, period. My season is always 1 week at a time. It's basically just 1 week, and that's what I got. I got a scout, I got to hunt, kill, get it on film, all in a week, and that's it. That's what I got to do. So it's not like, when you're hunting in your home state, you could go scouting, say the season's 3 weeks long. Oh, I'll go for 5 days here. I'll go another 3 days there. So when you're traveling, you can't do that. Everything's boom. It's from here to here. You got to make sure that you get it all done. And that's where the logistics comes into play. That's why I stopped camping when I go out of state. I don't very, very rarely do backcountry hunts because of that. I go to, I usually operate out of a little cheap ass motel, and I drive, and I just put more boots, miles on the boots, just hike in longer, just wake up earlier, sleep a little less. But anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent.
No, you're getting there though. Like that's all stuff that people wouldn't think of doing. You know what I mean?
So, I mean, I'll for instance, okay, so right now, the last couple of days I've been planning my hunt for South Dakota. There's airfare, there's a rental truck, motel, food and whatnot. If you can drive there, great, drive. It saves you the money on the airfare, saves you the money on a rental truck, and then it gives you the option to bring camping gear and you can camp. But 9 times out of 10, for me, if it's over 5, sometimes I'll push 6 hours. If it's over 6 hours drive, I don't drive, because you're losing 1 day on either end that you're not going to get the hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you fly, you usually get that as a half day. You fly in early in the morning, get there, you hunt that afternoon. When you fly out, you make it a late flight in the in the evening or late afternoon. That way you hunt the morning.
Yep.
And to me, that extra time makes a big difference in the field. Because listen, it's a numbers game. The more time you spend, the more stalks you get, the more glass better chance you are getting an animal. And when you only have a week to work with, you got to optimize that week.
Mm-hmm.
So,
no, that makes a lot of sense, and that's funny because like you say, your 80% success rate kind of speaks for that working for you, because that's very unconventional advice, in all honesty, because anytime you hear of somebody talking about going mule deer hunting or whatever else, they're like, yep, threw it all in my backpack and away we went. I was up there for 5 days, and it's just, but if you're doing the same thing, where rather than walking in 5 miles, camping, and then hunting 3 to 5 miles out of camp, rather than doing that, if you're covering 10 miles a day, you're covering the same country, but you're just doing it in a whole different way.
Yeah. It's a little more fast and furious, so to speak. I mean, like, I try to be mobile. I learned from a real famous hunter out here in Arizona, 12 plus years ago. And he said to me, John, he goes, this is Dwayne Adams. He's like, John, if the deer aren't there, they're not there. So, and I saw that he would just pick up and move. And, where other guys that I hunted with before, they would just sit in that one basin and look at the mountain, just beat it up the whole damn day until something came up. And that works too. Don't get me wrong. That works too. But I think you give yourself more opportunity if you go after it. And that's kind of what I took from it. So and just the years of having filming and having a camera guy in tow for, now going on 13 years or 14 years, it's like, you just start adapting. And having to travel. Like, I used to go, like, when my kids were really young. Now I have a 1.5-year-old son, but my daughters are 8 and 6. When they were super young, I would go on 3-day hunts, 4-day hunts, just so I wouldn't be away from the family. I mean, talk about pressure to get things done. And consequently, that's why I have a lot of medium-sized animals on my wall and small, and I've killed a lot of small deer and stuff in my life, because I never wanted to go home empty-handed. I got a thing with that. I hate burning tags. So opportunity presented itself. I took it, but you start learning, I don't want to say shortcuts. You start learning what you need to do to kind of be efficient. That's the word I'm looking for. Being efficient as possible. And I found for me that going on a backcountry hunt or, packing in real far was never really efficient way of hunting. When I knew that I can hunt the front country, your competition is way bigger. You have so much more people to deal with. You got all the weekend warriors, and the game is not necessarily as the game density is not as high. Your chances at getting a really big giant but you start finding ways to work around it. And honestly, like, I feel like it's made me a way better hunter, because I've always had to deal with competition. I've always had to deal with that, freaking 6 guys sitting on the same ridge as me looking, but yet I'm still the one going home with a deer and they're not. It's just, you just kind of learn to be efficient and learn like the shortcuts of how to get it done, because you're always underneath the gun, I know that kind of got a little away from how I plan my hunts, but that's kind of.
But that all goes into planning your hunt, because I'm the same way. Like, there's nothing worse than burning your money on a tag and then coming home empty-handed.
Right.
That's a crappy, especially when you go there and you work your ass off. Then it's way worse. Yep. Like, that just sucks. So. It all ties into it. I see your face cringing with your dog's bark.
Oh my God, I want to jump through the door right now and strangle the both of them. Give me a second. Hey, shut up. And that is our break for the moment. Just kidding. Like, our commercial break. Just kidding. That's exactly why it is. They're maniacs. The dogs are freaking off the hook. They bark at everything. You know what? It's funny because I got a big dog and a little dog. Oh, now here comes my son. Ah, Dad. Here. You want to meet Zach? Hey, hi, Zach.
Hi, buddy.
All right. Yeah, it's nonstop here at the Stallone residence. So
That's awesome. Yeah, just live it up, man. Mine's already 5, and I don't even know when he got 5. It's just I don't know. I don't even know how it happened. I tell him, buddy. He's like, Dad, next year I'm going to be 6, and I'm just, buddy, you need to just slow down and be 5 for a whole year. He's like, nope, I'm turning 6, and I'm just like, it's crazy.
Yeah, my girls do that. Excuse me. They're always my youngest daughter, my middle child, Olivia. She's already talking about her birthday, and it was just in May. She's like, "Oh, my birthday next year."
Yeah, you're like, that's a whole year.
We did that too. Come on, we used to. I remember growing up, I would think, in terms of half. Oh, well, I'm 7.5. I'm not 7.5.
Yeah, 7 3/4.
Now I'm like, God, I don't even want to think about the next birthday. You're still a young dude. How old are you?
I'm 26.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I wish I was 26 again. I was a friggin' animal at 26. I'm like a shell of myself compared to what I was at 26. I'm going to be 42. So.
Yeah. It's crazy how quick it goes.
Yeah. If I knew then what I know now.
That's even me, I think you think that about any age you are. Once you understand what that means, I think you think that any age you are.
Yep. That's true. Well, anyway, so I guess it's just planning out a state hunt. You just got to do it. You just got to pick a week. You got to go. You got to research it and go to do it. Once you do a couple, the rest start getting easier. And just, limit yourself. There's really, in the United States, you can literally go hunting every month in the calendar year. Whether it's turkey or bear or whatever in the spring, you could go to Hawaii and go hunt axis deer. You could go to Texas and pretty much hunt every 365 days a year if you wanted to. On exotics and whatnot, but there's something going on to hunt all year round. So if you think about it like this, and this is my extreme life, I'm like, if you do one a month, from July to February, which is what I do basically, even though I do more than one a month, but you do one a month, you really, you're taking 1 week. And you're gone for whatever that is, 7 weeks or 6 weeks out of a year. And, if you can afford to do that with your job and with your family, then awesome. You can be an adventure hunter. And for me, I think there's like nothing cooler than that. It's like, I love seeing new places. I love doing new things. That's why I do this for more than anything. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like getting my hands bloody. I got a little bit of bloodthirst in me. But it's more, listen, any hunter that tells you they're not they're fucking lying to you. Excuse my French, but
they're full of shit.
Yeah, come on, you do it because it's a rush. You do it because whatever. Yeah. It's part of you. But in all honesty, like the biggest drive for me is the experience, and that's why I tell people. I said, I had an article out and I did a podcast many years ago, or not many years ago, but a few years back on trophy hunting and meat hunting. And I tell people I'm neither, I'm tickled pink to shoot a trophy and I'm going to try my best to get something big, but my end game is really the experience. I enjoy everything about the hunting experience. Like, so for instance, California, 4 years in a row, I got my ass kicked and I didn't get one, but the experience has been awesome. I've had a lot of stories to tell about it. and I feel like it's maybe a better hunter all in all. And I always take something away from it. Would I've liked to take away a set of horns? Yeah, don't get me wrong. Right now, I want that more than anything. I want to shoot a freaking velvet blacktail in A-zone, California, more than anything right now, because it's eluded me. It's just one of those bucket list things I need to check off, and it's starting to get underneath my skin. It's become like a curse, so to speak, for me. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that goes along with anything. It's funny how each person will kind of have that animal that's like the cursed animal to you.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's elk. I mean, I've shot 2 or 3 bulls with a bow. 2, maybe 3. 2, I shot 3. The one, no kidding, like 44 yards. I watched my arrow go completely through the elk. He ran about 90 yards, laid down. I watched him lay his antlers on the ground, and he was going, I was like, he's dead. Went over there, picked up my arrow, looked at my arrow. There was nothing on it. It was like wiped clean, like it just hit that fat pocket.
Oh, jeez.
And I looked over, and he stood up, watching me, walked away. Later on that year, the next year, I found one of his antlers, shed hunting. And I mean,
that sucks.
Oh man, yeah, like elk have just kicked me in the nuts. Excuse my French.
Don't worry about it. You don't have to worry about it on my podcast. I curse like a sailor.
I do too. I tell people seriously when I get them on the podcast, I'm like, look, I have to really tone it down. When I get on a podcast, I try not to say goddamn, and I try not to say fuck. And other than that, you're good to say whatever you want. And if those come out, I'm not going to get mad at you.
Right.
I'm bad.
Yeah.
But I had one, I snuck in and I ranged a cow that I thought the bull walked up to the same spot the cow was. He was like 15 yards closer, shot way over him. Next year, I army crawled on my belly for 150 yards through grass literally 10 inches tall, and I missed an elk at 64 yards. The very next day, I snuck into 25 yards of that elk. He jumped up, and I missed him at 70 yards. That evening, I had him at 6 yards in the trees. And I mean, the year after that, I missed an elk. This was last year. I missed an elk again. Elk is just kicking me in the nuts, man.
Yeah. Well, as that happens, it gets in your head.
Bad.
And you start, instead of going through the motions in your head, like what you should be talking yourself about when you're getting to that, get into the kill zone, you start thinking, instead of, hey, I need to do this. Am I feeling my string? Where is my anchor point? Right. You don't think about those things. You don't talk yourself through those things. Instead, you're like, oh, I hope I don't fuck this up. I hope I don't mess this up.
Yep.
And that's what screws you up, because it's not in your normal process. I do this. You want to drill?
Sure.
Okay. Get yourself, maybe not an elk 3D target, because those things are like $1,500. But,
they are so expensive.
Ideally, if you could, that'd be great. But even an elk, one of those silhouette, who makes those? They're just targets, like a paper target with an elk on it. And then do drills where you set your bow down, you sprint 50 yards to your bow, shoot as fast as you can, just like fast. Now, people say that's going to give you target panic or whatever, but what you're experiencing when you're hunting, your shot is almost always target panic. When you're like, it's hurry up and go.
Yep.
If you take out the thinking process of how you're shooting and the way, I'm sure I'm going to get shit on for telling you this, but this is what I've done. And
don't feel bad.
I told you what my success rate is.
I get shit on a lot for stuff I say, so don't feel bad.
Everybody thinks they know better, but I'm just saying, I'm gonna step on my soapbox for a second. I've killed over 150 animals with my bow, and this is what I do, and I got a very high success rate.
Yep.
So I basically force myself into a panic situation. I start, a matter of fact, I got a video on YouTube that you can watch. I start at the target. I run to my bow 50 to 60 yards away, pick my bow up, turn around, shoot, run back to the target, touch the target, run back to my bow. And I just keep repeating that till I empty my quiver. And once you start getting your groups back to where they're supposed to be, you know that your body has, you've trained yourself to acquire the target fast, and it's not as much thinking about how you're shooting as you like, because when you target shoot, everything's a process. You want to think about it, you want to make sure but when hunting, it should be like, it's got to be instinctual, it's got to come, and I developed this because I shoot coyotes with a bow, and it's like a drive-by shooting. They come running in, and you got a second to acquire a target, a second to get the shot off, and oh, he just ran in, he's 35 yards, he's 40 yards, just ranging quickly as you're drawing back in your head, not looking at him saying, I think he's about whatever, you don't have that. Everything's just got to come boom, 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 boom. And you do that. And then you start putting yourself into odd positions. The other thing I do is I start putting myself into think about all the ways that you can get a shot off at an elk. It's going to be sitting on your butt, on your knees, coming around from behind a tree, drawing back behind a bush, standing up, all those things. Practice all the lifelike scenarios that you could possibly think of. And when you're proficient at doing that thing that you explained to me that happened last year that ain't going to happen to you no more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
absolutely.
So, yeah. Well, man, that's all I got for you. I don't know if you got anything for me, but I'm sure we could sit here and talk for another 2 hours and bullshit about hunting and what's coming up. But
I was just gonna talk just for a second about my approach to hunting out of state, because obviously I haven't been doing it near as long. I went over the threshold of hunting out of state last year, although I hunt all over the state of Wyoming. You heard how many tags I have just in the state of Wyoming, 7 or 8 different tags. So what I do is, one of the first things that I do is I look and see what time of year I can hunt in Wyoming. And then I start looking at states that offer anything and everything that's outside of that time of year.
Right.
So this Colorado elk tag, for instance, it opens up a week before Wyoming elk or deer with a bow starts. Cool. I can buy it over the counter. I can hunt the same year every year, same spot every year. Now, then I start looking at like Nebraska. So I can buy a tag in Nebraska. That season starts September 1st and it closes December 31st. And I can hunt the entire state of Nebraska with a bow for mule deer and whitetail. So I know right then and there, whether I have a spare time in October, November, or December, I can go hunt. Right? Same thing with Idaho. Idaho offers the same thing, an extended season like that, where I can't hunt anything in Wyoming anyways. So I might as well go hunt an area that I can buy a tag every year and go hunting.
Right.
And then Arizona, that's where Arizona comes in. I can't hunt any of those states I've mentioned in January. Arizona I can. So that's what I look for. Because as of right now, until I shoot 10 bucks that are all 180 inch plus, I'm not looking for it. I mean, if I see a 200 inch monster, you can guarantee I'm going to go try and kill that deer. But when I go, or even elk, when I go to an area, I'm not looking for a 400 inch bull, or expecting, let's put it that way. I mean, I'm looking cool. Yeah. I hope I find one, but I'm not expecting to kill a 400 inch bull or to kill a 200 inch deer. I'm expecting to go there and see deer that excite me, that I want to make a play on.
Yep.
That's what I shoot for. And I know that if I can find places that I can do that every single year, my consistency and my success is going to go way up, and as well as my knowledge. And then I can start building points in other areas And by the time I draw one of those tags, my knowledge and my experience and all the times of having a deer at full draw at 30 yards or whatever else, that's going to compound. And then I can put all that towards a tag where I can expect to shoot a 200 plus inch deer. That's kind of what I do.
That you know what you do? I do the same thing. You just said it a lot better than me. I got a little caught up on how I lay it out, but you basically do the exact same thing. Like I look for all the places that I can hunt long time. So like for instance, Alabama, you can hunt in February. I went last year.
Oh heck yeah! See, that's wicked cool.
Yeah. Just kind of extend anything you could do to extend your season. I love those ones that are like California. Okay, it's in July. I love those ones that start before anybody else, and I love those ones that go on way past them because it's just super easy.
Exactly. In Hawaii, that was a cool one that you threw in there. Hawaii is one that you can literally go any time of the year, much like Texas.
Yeah.
And if you figure Hawaii out, it's $100 for the hunting license, and you can literally get a round trip airplane ticket for around $700. So that's an $800 hunting trip. You can put that in the budget every year and go there every year in April or every year in May. What the heck else are you going to be hunting?
Yeah.
You know, maybe spring bear, I guess. You could be hunting spring bear in May, but June, you know, I don't know. It's all good.
I swear. The funny thing is I had a little talk with them too. I'm like, hey, listen, Daddy's going to go on a podcast today. I know you're not used to being quiet, but keep your mouths down. They're yelling at each other. Oh, man.
So
anyhow, well, cool. I'm glad we had a chance to do this. And
yeah,
I think it's good, man.
I hope your listeners,
to see you doing well.
Thank you. And I hope your listeners find value in whatever I just blabbed about.
Yeah, they will. They will for sure. No, because there's a lot of people ask about that stuff.